All right. We are back. This is From the Margins. And when I mean we are back, it is me, David Washington, and my co host, Jimmy Auffant. Welcome, Jimmy. It's good to be back.
It's great to be back.
If our OG viewers and listeners remember, Jimmy and I, at the onset of J&W Network, of the J&W Network, Jimmy and I did a series of videos just breaking down 20 points, 20 keys, where the Democrats or any party, this can apply to any political party who's in the decline, what they can do to recover and become significant. So we're bringing Jimmy back. We're bringing the two of us back to talk about what's going on in Central Florida politics between the Florida primary elections, which occurred about a week ago, and November 5th, the general election for the whole nation. So jumping right into it, Jimmy, your thoughts on the recent primary election results.
Okay, I'm going to start by using myself as an example.
Sure.
I am a super voter. Okay,
Okay.
I'm in a District 5 where basically we know there was a race. My wife is also a super voter. She also. Now, it was five candidates running, no, excuse me, four candidates running
Oh,
in District 5. And to be quite honest, Steve sent me literature the week before early voting started, uh, and nobody else contacted me. Now,
wow.
this is this is the part that I've contacted some of my other friends who are super voters. Said, "Hey, did anybody contact you for the primaries?" No. That shows me that those of you who are running in a primary don't know how to do it. Let me prove myself what I mean. But if I say 17% of residents of Orange County voted in the primary.
That's
And if
correct.
you look at the numbers of super voters in Orange County, I think it's 16.5. So you got a point 0.5 above that. If you had just worked the super voters, you had a very, very best chance. And I think you know that because that's what happened in the judicial races. That they went after the super voters and not after everybody else, and they were successful. Uh, the numbers are really pathetic. 17% of the total voting population voted in the primaries, decided who the candidates are. Then you're going to go into the general election and say, who are these people that I'm voting for? I don't
Right.
know. Because they never took the time to tell you before. And by now, they might not have the money to tell you by the general election. So the primaries have becoming scary. Let me get to the Republican side. You're a Magna person, and you're going to go out there and say I am Magna. You get the super voters, Republicans, and they vote for those candidates, and then these radical candidates go to the general election and lose. This is something that the parties need to understand. People are not voting in the primaries, and the parties with the stupidity of saying we don't want to get involved in primaries because we would. No, you get involved in primaries to get out the vote. You don't get out the vote for one candidate over another. That I could respect, but you get out the vote. But lately, the parties are doing nothing to get out the vote.
And Jimmy, I agree with you. The parties did very little to get out the vote. In Central Florida alone, I'm talking about Seminole County, Orange County, and Osceola County. These are the numbers. Like you said, Orange County, 17%. Seminole County, 17.66%. Osceola County, no better, 17.28%. The overall turnout for the state was 22.39%. Orange County, this bastion of Democratic voters, the blue island in a sea of red, not only underperformed, they poorly performed. And like you said, the primary is the time to get out the vote, to energize your base voters. And along with that, show those voters who are on the margins, who are the meh voters, hey, we've got something special. This is something special that's happening right now. And Democrats have no excuse about the lack of excitement because the primary was held during the second day of the Democratic National Convention, and there is excitement in regards to Vice President Harris's campaign. So, where's the disconnect? A five for Orange County, almost a 5.5% underperformance for the state. And I scratch my head. I live in Orange County District 5 also. And I got a ton of literature from the perceived Republican candidate in the nonpartisan District 5 race. I got maybe one piece of literature that was on my door from one of the perceived Democratic candidates, but I have about maybe five pieces from the perceived Republican, and that's not good. That's not good going into the general election.
It is not good, and it's not good in one aspect that I've always tried to say to everyone, and is this: you need to understand that basically people do not vote unless they're motivated.
That's right.
And whose job is to motivate them? Two people: the candidate and the party. I can understand that prior to the Democrats were depressed until Biden got out, and I was one. I will admit it, but that would have never kept me from going out to vote. But I was depressed. I was saying, "Oh my God, if it's Biden, we lose." Yeah, I understand that a lot of people have used that excuse, but the last primary it was 19%. We're going down. We're not going
Yes.
up. And the party basically had one race, and I'm going to do this because they had one race where they
Okay.
could put everything into it because they had a Republican running against a Democrat, and that was District 1.
Yes, right.
And they did nothing about that. They did not send out to Democrats, say, hey, by the way, super voters, these two people in District 5 are Republicans. Hey, super voters in District 1, this other person is a Republican, and the other person is a Democrat. They could have done that. No problem. No conflict with the laws, no conflict with whatsoever. They could have said, hey, District 1, we don't have here three Democrats running, so we don't have to be careful. There's only one. Let's put our effort into it. And we know what happened in District 1.
Yes, we do. There's a runoff because of a runoff. I'm sorry, because of a write-in candidate was able to lower the. Well, I'm sorry, push both candidates below the 50% plus one threshold in order for Commissioner Nicole Wilson to win by just two votes. Thank goodness her husband and her voted if they did. But because of the 28 runoff right, I'm sorry, the write-in ballots that prevented Commissioner Nicole Wilson from winning outright. And now she faces a runoff with Austin Arthur, a local businessman. And it's very clear. The Democrat, Nicole Wilson, the Republican, Austin Arthur. And you mentioned that the Democrats could have identified more their candidate, and the Republicans too, their candidates as their partisan parties, their partisanship. We saw, at least I'm seeing this the first time here in Central Florida, more of these candidates align themselves openly with the partisan affiliations. We saw that in some of the school board races. We saw that in the District 1 and District 5 county commissioner races. It, Jimmy, is this what the trend is going to be?
Look, they made elections nonpartisan, thinking that people liked it, and to a certain degree, they do. The truth of the matter is that still to this day, there's only one commissioner that's Republican, and that's in a district that is Republican, and she's never had a problem identifying as a Republican. Uh, so the concern that we're going to have here is basically at this point, where are we going to go with this? Are we going to go to a point where we can uh, function as a party, become effective as a party? Because we're not. And I'm going to
Mhm.
say we are not. The party basically what it's doing, and I'm going to say this, is wrong. It's really wrong. They're still using things that worked 20 years ago but don't work today. And that is the thing.
Right.
They're not using electronic things. They could be sending out massive emails. They could be sending out, but no, they're thinking of sending out mailers, which
Hmm.
90% end up in the garbage. Uh,
Yes.
I could tell that to Steve. You send me about four mailers, and all four ended up in the garbage.
Right.
If you're using mailers, you're way behind. And the campaigns need to understand that it's not being at places, it's making sure that if you want to go out and make contact in primaries, hey, Jimmy, how are you? I'm running for District 5. Hey, can we talk for a few minutes? Hey, I'm a super voter. There's a 90% chance I'm going to vote. The other people may. But the trend is people who are not super voters don't vote in primaries. Simple as that. I mean, and it's proven. So I don't know. The other thing that's starting to bother me in the local election was what happened with the supervisor election.
Woo. We we've been following that, and I predicted that the judge would kick this to November. But go ahead, your impressions.
My impressions is that basically he was going to kick it, but the thing was it should have been done sooner. And let me say where I'm coming from. 3 or 4 days before the election, a lot of people had invested a lot of money that if it was for November, they probably wouldn't. They would say, okay, my election is in November. I don't have to spend now. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. They spend a lot of money hoping that they were the top two that was going to come out of the election in August towards November. Now a lot of campaigns are hurting for money,
Yes, yes, they are.
and they shouldn't be hurting because it was obvious that that other person did not pay her fees, that she didn't qualify. So basically, uh, as she, and one thing that really would have been interesting, what it would have happened if instead of trying to do it as a non-party affiliation, she had done it as a write-in. Because if she had done it as a write-in, we would have had the same situation we had in District 1.
That's a good point, Jimmy. A very good point. That particular race, it was first of all, excuse me, I do commend Dan Helm for doing his job, and I would vote for Dan Helm. Even though it did not count in the primary, I voted for Dan Helm because of the fact he was proactive and he was doing the job of an election attorney, what an election attorney does. And he did his due diligence. He looked at everyone's paperwork. He requested information through a Freedom of Information request and learned of the discrepancies with Cynthia Harris's filing. That's a type of proactive behavior that I would like to see in my supervisor of elections and not taking things for granted, doing the work that is necessary for, as we hear a lot, the integrity of our elections. I appreciate that. That's why I voted for him in the primary that unfortunately it does not count because Judge Munyon moved everything to November. Wes Hodge, Uh, I didn't like his explanation as to why it should not be pushed to November. I believe he gave comment at a roundtable, a forum, a debate amongst the supervisor of elections candidates, the Democratic ones, earlier in August, saying that it would cost too much money. We would negate the voice of someone in the community, a leader of the community. I say, but we're talking about the integrity of our elections, and the case was pending at the time. There was no decision when he made his comments. The rules are the rules are the rules, and I believe the moderator brought that out. It's like, well, these are the rules, right? And all of the panelists confirmed, yes, these are the rules, and at the end of the day, you have to abide by the rules.
No, there was no doubt that those were the rules. My concern was that we wait a little bit too late to do it. I would have
Yeah,
preferred that decision 2 months before, so
right.
that way everybody could have hold back their money, know that it was going to go to November, and not hire all the staff that they hired and do all the things that they do. Because some of the candidates now are hurting economically, and that is my concern, that it should have been done sooner. Look, I'm going to be very honest. I thought it was going to go that way as an attorney, but at the same time, it is interesting that the supervisor of election himself didn't do something about it and say, "Hey, wait a minute, I need to get a legal opinion on this because I think this might be wrong." And that's the difference between a Bill Cowles and the person that we have sitting right now, who basically was appointed by DeSantis, and really, I think he did not want to run for election because he realized it's not as easy as a job as it looks. And he said, maybe I'm not competent to do this job. Maybe I don't have what it requires to do this job. So he opted out. But it is going to be a thing that we're going to know on November 5th who our supervisor of election is. And it's going to be interesting because that supervisor election takes effect into in January, and it's going to be more interesting. What happens if there is a what you would call a recount on that race? What happens if
Well,
it's that close that now the next supervisor of election is doing a recount for the first time? And
wow.
I've done recounts, and those are not fun. Trust me.
Yes, indeed. We both have history with recounts. It's messy, and democracy is messy. Just for some projections here. All I think most people would say, despite the lackluster campaign, because of her resources and that she is a elected official, that the advantage is with Karen Castrodino as the favorite to win this election. And will we be the better for it? We'll find out. But again, that's just talk amongst the politicos in the street. Um, Jimmy,
Yeah.
there was breaking news earlier today. I'm not too sure if you heard about our representative out of House District 44, Representative Carolina Amici. She was charged and processed for felony forgery. What's your impressions here?
Well, it's kind of interesting because there is a federal rule that unless it's necessary, it's internal rule. It's not the law. It's not enforceable, but it's something that you do not arrest a person unless it is strictly necessary because they committed a crime. I'm sure that this forgery was not found out last week or 2 weeks ago, uh, and having seen somebody in Puerto Rico charged with forgery go to trial and be found not guilty, but lost the election because that person was charged with that, uh, bothers me. And it bothers me because, to a certain degree, The special prosecutors here and the office of the Attorney General in Florida is politically corrupt. And I'm going to call them out because they are. They do things that you just wonder. A police officer could do something and there's no charges filed because uh, he did his job. And he said this was occurring. I'm going to believe him. I'm not going to believe the videos. So we do have a problem with that. Maybe this person did commit a crime. My only problem is what I like to call the appearance of impropriety. You're doing this before the election. Is this going to affect the election? Yeah. Why? Because basically at this point, uh, it is before November 5th.
Sure.
And nobody's voted in that race. Nobody. Let's put it this way. Nobody. So it's going to give her opposition the opportunity to put out flyers and call her a criminal, even though she hasn't been found guilty of anything. And at the ultimate point, uh, we don't know the outcome of this charges. So it bothers me as to the timing. I can't believe that this is something that happened last week because no prosecutor charges without at least this type of crimes without investigating this for 3, 4, or 5 months. So, yeah, it could have been done sooner, and that way allow the party to find somebody else to run in that district. And right now, the party's going to be without a candidate.
That's wow. Would DeSantis have the grounds? And I believe I have the answer to this question already, looking at the Regina Hill situation. Would Governor DeSantis have the grounds to remove her from office?
Big distinction. This is the legislator.
Okay.
Under the Constitution, there's supposed to be a separation. Can the speaker, yeah, and removing her will be more symbolic because right now they don't meet until next year, so there's nothing really
Okay.
that they do. Uh, but at this point, can he try? Sure. Would it look good for him to do it? You know, what happens if Regina is found not guilty? Does she get her seat back? No, because it was a special election.
Good point.
Can we do a special election right now? I don't think so. I don't think there's time enough to do a special election. So, yeah, she's going to end up being the candidate. And strangely, people could vote for her and send her back to Tallahassee. So,
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
will be interesting.
I know that Representative Amnesty has a formidable campaign team and well funded, and this will be very interesting to see how this plays out. Um, if the Democrats are going to be successful up in unseating her and retaking House District 44. My personal belief is that Spencer Leonard, I think the candidate for the Democrats, will have to be a little bit more aggressive, and the messaging has to be more aggressive directly to voters.
Look, I'm going to say something that is very unpopular, but I'm going to get it off my chest. I'm
Okay.
sick and tired of being the nice guy or take the high road. No, 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 no. Sometimes you're going to have to take the low road or the correct road by saying, look, President Trump has 46 convictions.
Yeah.
President Trump has been found in a jury trial guilty of touching a woman inappropriate
Yeah.
and even raping a woman inappropriate. Why don't we keep saying that instead of just trying to say that he's weird? He got elected weird. He's always been weird. We know that. But let's call things out. I'll give you an example. Did you know that in District 1, uh, before Mr. Austin was in private, had a private business, what he did for a living?
I'm trying to think. I do not recall at this moment.
He worked for the fire department.
Okay. I
He was
was
the
not aware.
person that Demings removed because he refused to reprimand. That is true, but nobody mentioned it during the primary.
I
This,
read that.
this is a person that was dismissed from Orange County
Right.
because he refused to reprimand one of his subalterns who failed to follow an instruction from the county. And basically, he got fired for that. And it's quite clear his agenda is to make Mayor Deming's life impossible and to give payback to the county. But nobody's mentioning that. If I was in charge of the campaign, that would be in flyers, that would be mentioned everywhere
Right.
because this is the thing. Look, I don't know if you ever saw the West Wing, but there was a part of where one of the campaign managers says, "I'm sick and tired of playing the high road and being slapped and being treated like I am anti this, anti that." Look, walk is not a liberal thing. There's some people that are walk. There's no laws that are walk, but DeSantis made a living trying to run for president with that. Nobody's saying that DeSantis has eliminated basic books from our schools just because they invocate racism, they invocate things that have happened here, of people who have done horrible things or good things or whatever. Oh, I don't think this is appropriate. Under his standards, even the Bible should be removed from there. These are the things that, as Democrats, we don't want to say because they're controversial and they are hateful. They're not hateful, they're the truth.
Yes.
And
It's
they
the
have
truth.
no problem saying things to us that aren't true.
Right.
Basically, uh, they have added about 20 million of people that have come through the frontier, and they blame Kamala Harris for this. I hate to break the news to you. The Supreme Court, once the COVID thing was eliminated as
Right.
an excuse to stop people from coming into this country, the Supreme Court that he appointed said, no, 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 that cannot be enforced. As a matter of fact, we need to be pondering that who killed the immigration issue was Trump because he
That's
was
correct.
campaign. But we don't do that because we want to take the high road. Well, you can take the high road. I don't.
Right.
I will
And
cut it out.
and Jimmy, you're right. It was Senator Langford who was, I believe, the ranking Republican on this particular commission to address or come up with a bipartisan solution to address the migrant crisis at the border, at the southern border. And he said so himself that um, former President Trump intervened, talked to his peers in the House to derail the agreement. And the Democrats, I heard it may be a handful of times, but unfortunately, it was at the convention. The Democrats started talking about this. Jimmy, going back to when we first started the revitalizing Florida, that was the 20-point plan that we discussed back in 2023, May of 2023. It was shortly after, a couple of months after, in August 1st, we made our first podcast talking about Project 2025. And so, almost a year later, Project 2025 is going to be one of the major media buys for the Democrats from this point moving forward to November. Where the fuck were you, Democrats, back in August when we did at least 3 episodes about Project 2025? It's just mind boggling. Democrats, and this is the problem with Democrats, um, whether it's locally or nationally, is that they don't have that backbone to say the things that need to be said, that do the things that need to be done. See, again, I say this a lot. There's a lot of patting each other on the back, a lot of selfies, a lot of gatherings of the same people over and over and over again. And perhaps if they started actually meeting people at their front doors or on their devices, perhaps you'll see better than 17% turnout in some of these primary elections.
That is true. And they're going to do now the thing about that. What I would do right now is I would spend millions of dollars. The person responsible for the problems in the border is Donald Trump. We had this project, which would have controlled A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It was done by a conservative Republican and a conservative Democrat. It was going to go out. Biden had given it his blessing, but Donald Trump went to the House and to the Senate and killed it because he wanted to run on a bad border program. Pound on that because they're pounding on us on immigration.
They
Pound
are.
on that. But I will bet you whatever you want that they're not going to address that. They're going to try to address other issues, but not that. Look, Democrats have had the problem of doing that. We lost the last governor's election here. We lost Miami.
Yes, we
Why?
did.
I don't know because the president, the chairman of the party, was from Miami. Okay,
That's right.
he was a past president of the local Miami thing, and he had very good roots in Miami. We lost Miami. Why did we lose Miami? Two reasons. One, the party has done nothing,
Correct.
nothing in this state to increase voting. Two, right now, the Republican parties, I can tell you as a Puerto Rican, are spending millions in trying to attract Puerto Ricans to turn Republican. How much is the Democratic Party spending? Zero. Zinch. Nada. That's it. So they still take us for granted and they do nothing. Look, what has the Democratic Party done lately? Basically, nothing. In January, they're going to elect a new chairman. Who that person is, we don't know. But normally it's who the donors want there to sit.
Exactly. Yes.
And now that there is no control because they killed the committeeman and committeewoman positions, it's going to be a their decision. The Florida Democratic Party has become a joke. It's non-existent. And by the way, Kamala and Mr. Wells do not invest in Florida because the Florida Democratic Party is incapable of changing the state blue. It's incapable. Now, if you want to do it yourself and maintain 100% control, you may.
Right.
But don't count on the Florida Democratic Party because they're not going to do anything for you. And I
You
regret saying that. But I
you
have
you, you make a good point, Jimmy. Are the Democrats relevant here in Florida? You have a million a million voter disadvantage for the Democrats here in Florida. The Republicans recently published on social media, to much fanfare, that they have a million voter advantage over Democrats. Uh, Nikki Fried and the Florida Democratic Party were excited about raising X amount of dollars, but then the Republicans, you know, they they bit back, they yelled back, saying that, well, we outraised you guys 7-1 in the last quarter. I get the enthusiasm, is that, but the reality has not sunk in for the Democrats. And at a local level, Jimmy, how can Democrats be relevant, especially at the state legislature, when we're likely to have, Democrats are likely will be in the minority, if not a super minority?
well, they can start by doing one thing: introducing maps that kill the gerrymandering. That might help them to get for years, the position of House victory has been let me raise money so I can keep my job, but I am not going to give money where I don't think it's going to help, and I don't do anything to challenge the gerrymandering that is in the state. They don't. We're about to create new maps, but then they'll just sit back and do nothing. Same with the Senate victory, they don't do anything. Look, let's get this clear. If you're running for the House, you have to contact House Victory. House Victory doesn't. It's going to tell you probably we can't do anything for you because the money we get, we're going to give to our own people. And if you're one of ours elected, you'll get some money. But if you're going to try to get yourself elected, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Uh, we going to try to sell you something, but we're not going to help you. Uh, Now, what can the local parties do? I'm going to give you four ideas. One, stop trying to make money off the candidates. Stop trying to help the candidates get elected. The card that you send out saying that these people are Democrats is useless. It really is. If you want to identify yourself as a Democrat, put it in your literature and send that out yourself. Two, pay for the van. Say, hey, you're a candidate. You're an official candidate. Here, uh, Kelly, Nicole, you're candidates. You're both Democrats running against Republicans. Here's the van for free. Three, pay for campaign manager. Pay for staff. Let them use your office. Give them software. Give them assistant. Basically, the candidates are on their own. You don't help them at all. You have money, but you don't help them. You let for them just to do fetch for themselves, and that is bad. Three, simple. Make sure you buy systems to help your candidates. I'll give you an example that was done for many years in Dade County. The Dade County Democratic Party had a printing company,
Okay.
and they had a special contract with that company, and they would walk in and they would get yard signs much cheaper. Now, they were not union. I'll say that. They were not union,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they were yard signs. Now, you could say yard signs, James, they don't work that much. You're right. But there's a lot of things you could do. You could send, I'll give you an example. The Republicans have a person here who does their mailers. Okay? He's so good that he does basically the printing, sending out on date, and everything for the. And if you're an official Republican candidate, there are people who pay that printer to send out your material.
Yeah.
We don't do that. You're on your own. Fourth, this is the most critical thing. Sit down and have a group of advisors who can advise the candidates for free on how to file for your financial reports, which is where most people get in trouble. That's
It's true.
two, how to do basically the paperwork that they're going to have to file with the state or with Orange County Supervisor of Election, and somebody who's going to sit there as a Democrat and make sure he's a paid person, a paid lawyer, and he's going to be there on election night,
Yeah.
and he's going to be there on any recount to assist that candidate. Look, I did it for free for Maribel, and I don't have a problem. But not everybody's going to do that. And
Right.
to be quite honest, the person that the Republicans had there was paid by the Republican Party.
Yeah.
That's the difference between us and them. We do very little to practically nothing for our candidates. We raise money, and basically at the end of the day, most of our candidates complain that we don't help them. And maybe it's time to listen as to why the candidates say we don't help them.
Right. The last part about having a lawyer who can come to a recount or be there on election day, a designated individual or individuals who will be there for the Democrats to represent the Democrats if there are any legal issues that need to be addressed by an elections attorney. I really like that idea. And then also, Jimmy, one of the concerns that I have is you touch upon is just having that organization, having the ability to implement certain systems in a campaign to make it effective. And I see as a campaign consultant, as a political consultant, that we have good candidates who pop up and they expect certain things from the party or expect certain things from consultants or people in the know, and they have no idea that the brunt of the campaign is on their shoulders. It saddens me to see how ill prepared many candidates are when they do decide to run for office. And the last thing for me is that, yes, the antiquated methods of campaigning are still with us. This is 2024. We're using AI. I mean, really, we at JW, we use AI in some of the systems that we have in place. And it's just amazing that after this primary, I see the same technologies, as you were saying, the same methods, and therefore, ergo, the same mentality towards campaigns. And it, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult at all.
No, you just adapt to the times. Uh, uh, there's so many things that can be done that are not done. Oh, another example, we should be telling everybody that the hotel associations of Central Florida are supporting Republicans against Democrats. And maybe it's time that people know that and send letters and say, hey, if you continue doing this, I'm going to do this. The same thing with the realtors helping Republicans against Democrats. This people should know what's going on, and the
Yeah,
party doesn't knows it but doesn't do anything about it. They don't. We don't want to rock the boat. Look, no, rock the boat, because that's the way you're going to stop them from doing what they're doing. Is making sure that people know who is who. I mean, for Pete's sake, just let everybody in District 1 know who Mr. Austin is in his past. Not that you're making up a story, not that you're saying something that's false. Trust me, if Nicole had that situation, Republicans would have no hesitation to be publishing it. None at all. As
right.
a matter of fact, Republicans have never had a problem of inventing things that are not true.
That's true. That's very true. As I stated earlier, Democrats may not have a spine, and the Republicans don't have
Conscience,
any yes, yes, yes,
principle,
indeed.
morals. Yeah, we could go on.
Principles. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
and you're right. The Dems need to be more aggressive, and there's smart ways of doing that without the candidate or the campaign getting into the gutter. Gutter, you just pull out those truths and you put it out there for the public to make its decision. And I'm sure that Commissioner Wilson just hated the thought of having to go into a runoff or go into the November election as a runoff, being the incumbent. These things should not happen for an incumbent, especially as close as it was. It's a lot of work ahead. A lot of work ahead for the Democrats. In closing, Jimmy,
yeah.
any other thoughts?
Yes, it's time that we start thinking as to how we're going to create a solid Democratic wall in Orange County. Where, look, the Hotel Association, the realtors have been trying to get into the county commission and control it for years, and they have not succeeded.
Yeah.
Okay? They have not succeeded. And let's call it out. They are investing millions in the race.
Yes. Yes, they
All
are.
race, in Midas race,
Yes.
and
District
in
Three,
Kelly's race.
District Five.
Let's Let me put it in very clear terms. There's only three elections in the county: 1, 3, and 5. You might think that there's 6 commissioners, but only 3 up for election.
That's right.
And all three, the rich and powerful, are putting money against the Democrat. It's time that we start saying to the hotel station, you know what? Screw you. I don't use you, but as a matter of fact, screw you. You shouldn't be putting your money to tell me what to do. Hey, realtors, I know you want to put money so we develop every corner of Orange County into a pot that we can't breathe anymore. Screw you too. Basically, that is what we need to do. But for some reason, we try to survive because we know that push comes to shove. The people of Orange County have integrity. The people of Orange County, for lately, only elect females to that position. And believe it or not, Orange County is very environmental,
Yeah.
extremely environmental. So yes, and we need to discuss later down the line this boundary thing in Orange County because the city of Orlando is trying to pass a fast one. And I know you're a Democrat, but buddy, no, 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 no. Yeah, I'm going to fight you on this one with tooth and nail. And if it takes me to the grave, I'll go with pleasure. But you're not going to touch spittle over my dead body.
Jimmy, that's going to be the rule boundary, the Deseret development, the annexation of 52,000 square acres into the city of Orlando, and the boss himself, Mayor Buddy Dyer. That's going to lead our next conversation because there's an inner conflict within the local Democratic Party, and who's in charge. It's been made very clear that it's Mayor Buddy Dyer. It's not the party chair, Samuel Viches Santiago. It's not even Mayor Jerry Demings. The boss is Mayor Buddy Dyer. For the Democrats the Orange County Democrats to announce that Mayor Buddy Dyer is going to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award at their next gala. Um, it's just it's a disconnect as to what type of Democrat he is, what he is planning to do with Deseret Ranch or Deseret Development, and how it will affect everyone here in Orange County. It's just such a disconnect, and it makes for a great story.
It does, and we need to get the people out to vote for the boundaries because if that passes, it's going to be very difficult for the city of Orlando to annex anything. It really is, and even if it does, it's going to be within the major plan. Yeah, the city can say, "Well, we're not bound by it," and they're partially correct. But basically, we need for the people to understand what the intent is, and this is I'm going to end with this. This is going to be the first time I'm going to try to start campaigning, saying, "Look, this is the truth. They're fucking with you, and you need to understand where it comes from." I understand the award, and to be honest, I was part of the DEC. It's no big deal. It's not good. Who cares? For that,
Indeed.
I'll take it. I'll take a Donald Trump. Who cares who's the candidate for vice president is? Who cares what award you receive? We're going to fight you tooth and nail on the annexation.
Indeed. And on that note, I want to thank our viewers and listeners for, coming back and taking part in this limited series between the August primary and the November general election. This is From the Margins with your host, Jimmy Auffant, and myself, David Washington. And we hope that this will spur some conversation and further thoughts as to the what's going to happen in the near future and possibly the future of Orange County, Seminole County, and Osceola County. So thank you, Jimmy, for joining us. Please, everyone,
Thank you,
if you
David.
you're welcome. I can't wait to do this next week. And we'll have hopefully the team will put together a nice intro and thumbnail for everything. But I like how things flowed today. And for our viewers and listeners, please like, share, and comment. We really want to hear what you have to say. I enjoyed commenting on your comments and having that conversation. We're all one community. Help us grow our community, particularly by sharing this with those friends, family members, those influencers, candidates, and electeds that you believe will benefit the most from our content. I'm David Washington. This is From the Margins with Jimmy Auffant and David Washington. We'll see you the next time.